Video settings, please. Video. Please check your audio and video settings, please. Guys, everyone, please check your audio and video settings, please. I hope you got the. Am I audible, guys? Am I visible? So, that I was talking about advantages of microservice. Total 3 architecture we learn: monolith, SOA, microservices. In all 3 places, MVC layers will be there. MVC layers are not specific to one architecture. Though it's self-architecture, but that is part of all these 3 architectures, right? While developing monolith, layers are based on MVC. SOA, provider and consumer, layers are based on MVC. In microservice, every service is a project. While developing each service as project, layers are based on what? MVC. So that is what I want to say. Yeah, now I think video also came, it seems. Write a comment. What's the comment I should write, guys? Note, while developing any architecture based, application, or project, we need to use what, guys? We need to use MVC layers. We need to use MVC layers. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Advantages of what, guys? Microservice architecture. See, I think we already discussed, need not to stop one service if problem comes in another service. Need not to stop all other services while updating or patching certain service for betterment, guys. Okay, guys. We can use different technologies or languages to develop different services of the project or application. Next, we can do horizontal scaling for each service as required. I have given some solution for the memory and CPU time. So now every service is a separate project. Now for service, we can create instances, na boss. If certain service like searching, cart, etc. are having more demand, then we can create more instances for them by enabling what, guys? Load balance. By simply enabling what, guys? Load balance. Next, upgrading or migrating to new technologies in each service is not complex. In fact, what? Quite easy compared to monolithic architecture. Because each service is a separate project. If you want, you can upgrade each project to new technologies. Service downtime is less because we need to perform these activities on one service at a time. So no one can say project is not working totally, right? See, even though multiple microservices are there, for all microservices together, we'll be having only one UI. That UI look like a single project only, right, boss? For example, you take insurance project. There are 200 services. I developed 200 microservices. But while using, end user will operate through UI. UI looks like a single project only, right, guys? So end user never get the feeling he is dealing with the 200 projects, guys. End user operates all these microservices through common UI, common front end, nothing but UI, right? So, but you never feel there are 200 projects. They are the back-end things, boss. They are completely back-end things, right, guys? Yeah. Service downtime is less because we need to perform these activities on one service at a time. One service at a time. Allows to place common things of multiple services in common place like GitHub environment instead of placing in every service or module. Yeah, common things, guys. For example, all projects are talking to same database Oracle. Is there any meaning of writing common JDBC properties, common data source properties, common GPA properties in every project? No. You can place in a common place like a Git account kind of thing, GitHub account kind of thing. From there, you can collect and use it. GitHub is so far you have seen as a code repository. GitHub can also be used as what? Common place to collect the data from, collect the data required for the multiple projects, to collect the data required for the multiple projects. Developing microservice using Spring Boot is very easy because most of the common things like database setup, schema initialization can be configured to occur through auto configuration of Spring Boot. Why Spring Boot is popular to develop microservice architecture projects? Simple and straightforward reason. What is that reason? Okay. In Spring Boot, what is the basic advantage? Auto configuration. Based on the jar files you added, based on the inputs you give in property file, so many things will take place automatically. I have 200 microservices. All of them are talking to Oracle database software. Okay. If I, instead of writing 200 times connection establishment, DB tables creation, this kind of logic manually. If I use Spring Boot in all 200 microservices, they will come automatically through auto configuration process. Come on, my dear. So that's why the best environment to develop microservice architecture project is what? Spring Boot. Why? Because of which reason? Auto. What reason, guys? Auto configuration feature. Main reason is what feature, guys? Auto configuration features, right, boss? But don't think that only advantages are there, no disadvantages. Advantage always comes with one limitation. Few limitations are there, but those limitations can be solved by using advanced tools, guys. Earlier you dealt with one log file for entire project, one log file. But right now 200 microservices are there in the project. How many log files? 200 log files will come, right? Gathering them and monitoring those log files is very difficult now, boss. And flow of execution is tracing the debugging. Debugging is very difficult now, boss. Here flow is project to project flow. Project to project flow is very complex to trace or not. But to go through them, some tools are there. So that's why microservice architecture is all about developing services as RESTful web services, plus design patterns, plus a lot of third-party tools. Plus lots of third-party tools. What tools, guys? Because 200 log files will come, but I want to go through log messages in a single place. Then we use ELK stack tool. Are you getting my point? Project flow is happening across the multiple projects. We have a tool called Jipkin and Sleuth to trace the flow of execution. 200 projects are talking to Oracle, guys. But I want to place properties in a common place and I want to use them. Okay, for that one config server concept is there. Like this, lot of tools, lot of design pattern, RESTful web service. All together we call it as what? Microservice architecture based application development. What, guys? Microservice architecture based application development. Shall we see them, guys? Maintenance of the project is very complex because it generates multiple log file, contains multiple communication chains, and debugging the code across the multiple services is too difficult. Contains multiple communication chains and debugging the code across the multiple services is too difficult. Flow, boss. One project talking to another project. Our debugger will give flow within the project. Do you think it will give across the multiple projects? No, not possible. That's why we have to use what? Special tools like Jipkin sleuth kind of thing. Needs a high-end infrastructure to maintain multiple microservices. If we are going for cloud, we need to purchase or rent multiple things to deploy and manage these projects. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Knowledge on more tools, technologies, and processes is required to work with what? Microservice architecture projects. TL developer cannot get complete control on the project as the project contains multiple microservices implemented in different technologies. I said, no, different microservices can be developed in different languages or technology. Do you think one individual will get complete grip on the project, guys? Migrating monolithic project to microservice architecture project is very complex. Individual things combining into single is easy. Single one divided into multiple thing is very complex, right? They're all services together into single packet. Here every service is a separate. So migration is very, very complex, guys. Testing is a bit difficult if one microservice is having dependency with what? Yeah, because unit testing within the project possible. Now we have to do across the multiple projects. Okay, guys. Next one. Transaction management across the multiple microservices is very complex or difficult to implement. Okay, for that one, we need to go for global transaction management. Suppose multiple microservices are talking with multiple databases. Now tell me, boss, commit rollback you should do on one database or with respect to multiple databases? Commit rollback should not happen on one database software. Commit rollback must happen on what? Multiple database software. Are you understanding my statement, boss? Got the clarity, my dear? I want reply, boss. TL developers cannot get complete control on the project as the project contains multiple microservices implemented in different technologies. Implemented in different technologies. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Come on, I want reply, boss. Okay, next one is what, guys? Bounded context problem. When you have a requirement, okay, how many microservice? What is the area limit of each microservice? Is very difficult now, boss. I have a project requirement. First of all, I have to divide that project into multiple microservices. Come on, come on. And each microservice limit we should identify. Should start from here, should end here. That is very brainstorming activity or not, guys? See? Bounded context problem. Identifying boundaries of each microservice. Deciding number of microservices is what? Very difficult. We decided every service has a project, boss. But identifying each service separately, deciding their boundaries is. Do you think it is that much easy? Do you really think it's that much easy, guys? I want reply, my dear. Come on. Super. BFSI, banking, financial service and insurance project contains what? Multiple microservices. Now, SBI project is not just banking project, guys. SBI is now into banking operations, into mutual funds, Come on, guys. Into loans department, that's a most of the bank projects are called BFSI domain projects. Banking, financial services, and insurance. And same SBI is now offering a health insurance projects also. Aisa no na? You take ICICI. Banking they do, financial services they do, and insurance activities they do. All are interlinked or not, guys? We generally use cloud environment to deploy and execute modern, monolithic, SOA and microservice projects. Working with cloud is nothing but taking things on rental basis and using them for our requirement. Taking things on rental basis and using them for our requirement. I'm just writing cloud process some point on. AWS, Azure Cloud, Google Cloud, PCF, Pivotal Cloud Foundry, it is now decommissioned. Decommissioned means what, guys? Outdated. They stopped giving services. They stopped keeping active, boss. Decommissioned. Generally, where we use this word decommissioned, in military, this word is very popular. While removing a certain person from the power, okay, they will say you are decommissioned, right? Okay. Rackspace, Salesforce, all these are cloud, guys. Number one is AWS, number two is Azure. Azure is slowly picking up. Azure is from Microsoft, guys. AWS is from Amazon people. Cloud basically offers how many services, guys? 3 services. PaaS is SaaS. Platform as service, infrastructure as service, software as service. Platform as service means it offers operating systems, guys. Infrastructure as service means what? It offers networking, network memories, hard disk memories, guys. Come on, memory kind of thing. SaaS, softwares, Java, Oracle, MS Word, these things, guys. Check it out. Infrastructure as service, RAM, hard disk, network, CPU, racks, PaaS, platform as service, Linux, Windows, Ubuntu, Mac, all this stuff. SaaS, web servers, application server, database software, mail server, JDBC drivers, MQ servers, Jenkins, JDK, and all this stuff. From any cloud boss, we can take 3 services. Okay. Nowadays, no one is keeping their own infrastructure in the company. Everyone connecting to cloud, they are developing. Local testings will be done in what? Eclipse and embedded servers. Once everything is perfect, okay, they are trying to use cloud setup, guys. Microservice architecture is a design and whose applications or projects can be implemented or developed in Spring environment with the support of what, guys? Spring Boot plus, Spring Boot Cloud plus, tools plus, design patterns. Simply with the support of what? Spring Boot plus, Spring Boot Cloud plus, tools plus, design patterns. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on. Microservice architecture application is nothing but Spring Boot REST applications plus design patterns plus third-party tools, guys. A lot of third-party tools. Cool, guys. Spring Cloud module with Spring Boot provides better environment to develop and test what? Microservice architecture applications. What applications, guys? We can develop MS architecture application in other domains like .NET, Python, JS, etc. But Java domain is best because it has got what? Spring Boot and Spring Cloud support to develop MS architecture projects effectively. Microservice architecture can be implemented in what? Mixed technology mode. Few microservices in Java, few are in Python, few are in .NET. Later integration can be done. Later integration can be done. What is the conclusion, guys? Final conclusion. Prefer using monolithic architecture for small and medium scale projects. College website, university website, supermarket, etc. Prefer using microservice architecture for large scale complex Java applications or projects. Not only Java, guys, anything. Large scale complex. Large scale complex, guys. Large scale complex. For large scale complex was e-commerce applications, banking application, financial service application, generally developed by using what? Okay. Yeah, tell me. Micro's monolithic architecture says develop different services as different module by combining them into single var file or jar file. Cool, guys? SOA architecture says develop different services as different projects and register them in what? Common UDDI registry, and consumer and producer interacts with each other using global XML format, right, guys? Microservice architecture says develop different services as the different projects and integrate them using third-party tools and lots of design pattern. Here the data exchange between application takes place either using XML format or what? JSON format. Because microservices are RESTful applications internal. But we prefer JSON a lot compared to XML. So ultimately, microservice architecture is great or not, guys? Okay, today I'm going to give the overview diagram of what, guys? Microservice architecture based project development or application development. This is the overview diagram. Just first of all, try to understand what is there in that. Multiple microservices are there now, boss. Okay. And there is a different types of front-end applications. For all microservices, same front-end application will be there. Okay, what are the possible front-ends? Web application, mobile application, UI applications, come on guys, and third-party application. Third-party also will be there. All these are talking to our microservices through network na, boss? Okay. Okay, guys. These microservices, nothing but Spring Boot REST controllers. Microservices are nothing but Spring Boot REST controllers only, right? On these microservices, different third-party tools and design patterns will be applied. Learning them, all these things is nothing but learning microservices. Got the point, my dear? Learning all things together is nothing but what? Learning microservices. For example, these microservices wants to interact with SQL database software. They prefer using what? Spring Data JPA. Old days, ORM, Spring ORM. But nowadays, no one is entertained. These microservices wants to interact with what? MongoDB kind of NoSQL database software. Spring Data NoSQL is there. Still, I have not completed for your batch. So, shall we plan on this weekend? No, yeah. I want to take as a common topic. I think it takes time, it seems. We'll see. Okay, I'll take a common topic only because I want to conduct a common topic for 2-3 batches together. Right now, only you people left, right? MS1, MS2, MS3, MS4, MS5. Okay. NoSQL, guys. Now listen. I think you have not completed NoSQL, but you have completed what? You want to see, you want to have communication through messages. Then we have got what? Message queues, Kafka, JMS, Camel, RabbitMQ. Okay. To send mails, Spring Mail is there. For batch processing, batch is there. Caching, still I have not done. In future, we are going to discuss. Caching technique, we have a Redis caching there. Caching technique, we have a Redis cache. These are interactions, guys. These microservices can talk with the SQL database software using Spring Data JPA. These microservices can talk with what? NoSQL databases using Spring Data, MongoDB, Spring Data, NoSQL, guys. Integration, guys. These microservices can integrate with what? Message queues for message-based communication. These microservices can send the mail, can receive the mail using mail module, can enable batch processing in batch module, can do caching by using what? Redis cache. Can do caching with what, guys? Redis cache. Interaction within the project, intra-communication. Interaction across the projects, intercommunication. Got it, guys? Okay, now listen. Now I'm going to reveal one by one, guys. Listen carefully. I think everyone understood these three boxes. And everyone realized these are microservices. Everyone realized these are microservices. Come on. Everyone definitely realized these are microservices. Come on, guys. Yeah. Now tell me, boss. Now tell me. Yeah, one by one. Please focus. This GitHub, GitLab is there, na? So far, you have seen as a code repository. Forget about it. Anyhow, it is a code repository. Here also we use as a code repository. One more angle is there. All these microservices are talking with the same SQL or same NoSQL. Then we need connection properties. And if they are using Spring Data JPA, Hibernate properties are required. If every project is talking, every project I should write. But if I have 200 microservices, writing JDBC properties for 200 times, okay, same Hibernate property for 200 times, is it really meaningful, guys? Is it really worth, guys? I want reply. Is it really meaningful, guys? Is it really worth, guys? I want reply from you people. Come on, guys. Everyone. Okay. That's why we have a concept called keeping in the Git accounts. Keep them in the Git accounts. In the GitHub or GitLab, we create a project. In that one, we add application.properties. Okay. There's a concept called config server concept. Through that config server, we made them available in all MS projects. Then what's the advantage? Tomorrow database password is modified. In one microservice project, I have to modify, or all projects I have to modify. All I have to modify. But since they are there in centralized location GitHub account, how many times I need to modify? It will reflect in how many MS projects? All the MS projects. They will reflect in all the MS project. But all I need to do modification for how many times? Yeah, that's the use of what? Config server. What is that? Config server is a Spring Boot project that acts as a bridge between multiple microservice and Git accounts. It will gather common properties like data source properties, Hibernate properties, other things. Okay, from where? Git account, and pushes them to what? All microservice projects. To do this, we got centralization of the common properties. And whenever database password is changed or logical DB changed, how many times I need to modify? Only one time. That's the role of config server. Clear, boss? Now listen. All these microservices are independent projects or they will be in communication. Basically independent. If needed, they will be in the communication. Basically, they are independent projects. If needed, we need to keep them in communication. Yes or no? Na? We need to keep them in communication means, first of all these microservices should be registered somewhere. Then only they will become discoverable and communicatable. That place is nothing but Eureka server. We register all microservices with the Eureka server. We register all the microservices with what, guys? With the Eureka server to make them as discoverable. We register them to make them as what, guys? Discoverable. Is that clear, guys? Are you getting my point? Understanding my statement, boss? I want reply, boss. To make them as discoverable. To make them as, is that clear? I want reply. Yeah. All microservices of the project will be registered with Eureka server so that they will be, each microservice can be made available or discoverable for other microservices. Everyone getting my point, guys? Next one. Circuit breaker, guys. I may get some exceptions. Huh? Exception may come when microservice is executing independently. Exception may come when one microservice is talking to another microservice. Second microservice is not ready, but first microservice is talking. That time exception may rise or not, guys. That time exceptions may rise or not. I want reply, boss. Everyone please try to understand. Definitely exception may rise or not, guys. Now tell me, boss. Whenever exception rise, instead of displaying technical error messages on the front end, it's better to display some non-technical guiding messages. Okay, that's one use of circuit breaker. Sir, for that one exception handling is sufficient. Now, what is need of circuit breaker? Now I will tell. Listen, very carefully listen. I have given 5 requests. Exception came 5 times by executing the business method. Is there any sense of executing 6th request again business method? That's why what I kept, after getting 10 requests, 10 exceptions back to back in business method execution, next 1 minute, if I give request also, business method should not execute. One dummy method should execute, giving the guiding message. After 1 minute, you should again try one time. Again exception came. Again for 1 minute. Okay, dummy method only should execute, though I give request to business method. After 1 minute, again it should search for one. Again it should search for what? One time. Exception has not come. Execute and give the output. Initially, I am waiting for back to back 10 exceptions. This count can be increased or decreased. After that, next to 1 minute, though request is given to business method, we never allow control going to business method. We execute dummy method. After 1 minute, again we check once. Again exception came. Next to 1 minute, dummy. This is called circuit breaker. Circuit on means business method execute. Circuit break means dummy method. It is more than exception handling, boss. Exception handling just gives non-technical guiding message. But here, for certain amount of time not executing the method, come on. Is it not interesting factor or not, boss? So that is for that one, what we got? Resilience 4J, Netflix heat streak, these components are there. As a resistant discovery server, what is there? Eureka server is there. To implement config server, we can take the support of what? Git. Adding all these things on the REST services becomes your project as what? Microservice architecture project. Convinced, boss? Okay, guys. And now listen carefully. Let us assume different microservices are talking with different databases. But I want to do everything or nothing principle, not on one database, on multiple database. Regular transaction management is sufficient. I need a special distributed transaction management. Definitely we need a special global transaction management or not. Regular transaction management, nothing but local transaction management. Does commit rollback on one database. Does commit rollback on what? One database software. Are you getting my point there, guys? It will does commit rollback activities on how many database software? One database software. But right now, on multiple microservices which are not using same database, which are using different databases, I want to do commit activity and rollback activity. If committed, data should be committed in multiple databases. Rolled back, data should be rolled back from all databases. For that purpose, we need to work with what? Global transaction management. What term, guys? Global transaction management. Are you understanding my statement? For that one, we have Narayana and Atomacus. We have Narayana and what? Atomacus. Superb. Next one is what, guys? Distributed logging and tracing. Distributed logging and tracing. Distributed logging and what? Tracing. Sleuth, Jipikin, ELK stack, guys. I already said, na? One microservice, one log file. 10 microservices, 10 log file. I need a single area to see log messages of all the log files. Then we have to work with what, guys? ELK stack. Super. Next, Spring Boot admin UI and dashboard. Now listen, this is very important. Something different. Other day, someone asked, sir, you are not covering AOP. Then I said, AOP means you have to develop the services. Lot of non-functional services are there in Spring Boot as actuators, right, guys? One actuator is giving health of the project. One actuator is giving environment of the project. One actuator is giving all beans information. One actuator is giving all processes information. One actuator is giving all threads information. One actuator is giving all config properties information. One actuator is giving system details, guys, current computer system details. Like this, we have a lot of actuators are there. I want to enjoy all those actuators in GUI environment. For that purpose, we have a admin server. What server, guys? Spring Boot admin UI or dashboard. Dashboard means what? A small GUI where front end will be there to do lot of operation. Where the front end will be there to do lot of operation, multiple operations. Are you getting my point there, guys? I want reply, my dear. Come on. Yeah. So what is the full and final conclusion from my side? Spring Boot admin UI dashboard. Spring Boot actuators. ELK stack means combination of what? Multiple tool. E for Elasticsearch, L for Logstash, K for Kibana. Array, multiple microservice deals with multiple log file. To see the log messages of all the log file in single place, by applying various filters and conditions, we have to take the support of what? Okay, distributed logging support and tracing support. Earlier, people used to work with a sleuth and Jipkin, but in 3.x that is not working. Only ELK stack is good. And ELK stack will work in all versions, guys. Sleuth Jipkin will work up to 2.x version of this. Then what is this, guys? Spring Boot is providing lot of non-functional features to every project in the form of actuators. But that is not default feature, guys. We have to enable it. Okay, I have multiple microservices. Every project is having its own actuators. But I want to see all actuator services in a single place, in a GUI environment. For that purpose, they have got what? Admin server. Spring Boot admin UI, admin server concept is there. There you can see all actuators in single place. We can enjoy all actuators in single place. Is it not interesting, Babu? Come on. Yeah. Total how many things I discussed, guys? 6 plus 9. Total 3. Total 6 plus 3. Total 9, guys. Total how many aspects we discussed here, guys? 9 aspects we discussed here. Got it? Total how many aspects we discussed, guys? 9 aspects it will be discussed. Yeah, everyone please try to understand what is the story here. What is the story here? Number 1, all microservices are the RESTful services acting as a REST controller. And every service is a separate project. All these things will talk to SQL databases using Spring Data JPA. All these things will talk to NoSQL database using what? Spring Data NoSQL. Spring Data NoSQL. Super. Yeah. These microservices use what? Message queues. These microservices use what? Message queues. Kafka, JMS, Camel, RabbitMQ, guys. These microservices will use these concepts for messaging based communication. They use mail for mail purpose, batch processing, config caching for caching, Redis cache for caching activities. Common properties required for multiple microservice projects will be kept in GitHub account and will be gathered through config server. This point is clear. All microservices will be registered in Eureka server to make them discoverable for other microservices. Okay, now listen, guys. Exception handling, communication related problems will be handled through what? Circuit breaker. Earlier Netflix iStick, now are outdated. Everyone nowadays preferring what? Resilience 4J. Nowadays everyone is preferring what, guys? Resilience 4J. In every Spring Boot project, we can add lot of non-functional features. Non-functional means nowhere related to regular project needs. Project is banking, withdraw, deposit, transfer money. They are functional features. Health of the project, PNID's information, threats information, processes information, environment information. These are functional features. They're part of the project activities. No, they are non-functional feature. Ready-made actuators are there, but giving non-functional features, boss. But for every project, separate non-functional features are added, right? But instead of seeing individually, I want to see them together in a single environment. Then we have to got admin server concept, guys. Okay, now listen. Every microservice is having separate log file, but I want to see log messages of all log files in a single place by applying my choice filterings. Then what, guys? ELK stack. If every microservice is talking to its own database software, okay, now that means I need to perform transaction management across the multiple database software. Then local transaction management is not sufficient. We need to work with global transaction management because we need to perform do everything or nothing principle on multiple database softwares. On what, guys? Multiple database softwares. Yeah, now listen. Now I'm introducing the actual story, the real boss. Tell me, all these microservices are REST projects. Every REST project will have its own URL. If I have 200 microservices, how many URLs I should remember? 200 base URLs. Each project 4 endpoints. 200 into 4, how many? 800 URLs I should remember. This is going to be very headache now, boss. Especially for the UI people, it's going to be headache or not. Because for different services, they need to communicate with different URL based microservices. That's why they have come up with one concept called API gateway. What is that? It acts as a entry and exit point for all the other microservices of the project. It itself one microservice. It's a special microservice that acts as entry and exit point for other microservices. For example, in school days, when teacher is not there, class is not in control. But at the same time, in between class breaks, they cannot appoint other teacher to control the class. Then what teachers will do? They select one girl or boy and they will make them as what? Class monitor, class leader, or whatever it is. Class monitor or class leader. So maybe in front of teacher you can speak bit extra, but in front of this class monitor everyone should be silent. Why? Because if you move here also they will write your name on the board. Yes or no? Na? Like that they have suppressed our emotion of speaking in the classrooms or not, guys? Yes or no? Na? Similarly, all microservices are there, nicely they are doing. So one special microservice we develop, that is what? API gateway. It acts as entry and exit point for other microservices. So now this API gateway helps to get common URL for other microservices. Now onwards, no one will hit other microservices. Everyone will try to hit the API gateway. And from API gateway, link will be there. If this in the URL last word is this, go to this microservice. Last word is this, go to this microservice. Now, last word is this, go to this microservice. Like this API gateway will delegate to other microservices or not. Like this API gateway will delegate to other microservices or not, guys. That's one advantage of API gateway. What's the advantage? It acts as an entry and exit point for all other microservice and allows to have common base URL for communicating with all the microservices. That's advantage number one. Supervisor kind of thing. Right, guys? Number two. Now I ask one question. I want to apply security on every microservice. Do I need to really apply on every microservice now onwards? You apply on what? API gateway. Indirectly is applicable everywhere. Spring Security OAuth 2.x can be applied on API gateway. Come on, guys. I want to add common pre-logic, common post-logics. Before request goes to each microservice, I want to execute some common logics. And after once response came from each microservice, I want to execute some common logic, pre and post logic. Instead of writing in every microservice, I can write in API gateway now, boss. I can write in API gateway or not, guys. Yeah, what this API gateway will do? Netflix Joule Kong Cloud Gateway is there. Netflix Joule is outdated. Kong is not outdated, but not popular. But Cloud API Gateway is popular. What is popular, guys? Cloud API Gateway is popular. Cloud API Gateway is popular. Are you getting my point there, guys? Yeah, what this Cloud API Gateway will do? Number one, routing. Routing means what? Taking the request, passing to what? Routing, boss. Taking the request and passing to each microservice. Filters to apply pre and post logics. To apply pre and post logics. Next, SSO, single sign-on. Instead of signing into every microservice, you sign with API. Indirectly, it is signing on everywhere or not, guys? Come on, guys. I'll tell the best example, boss. All our projects. This is also project. But if you complete login here and completing login on other microservice also indirectly happened, that is called single sign-on feature. Where you are enjoying a single sign-on feature, I will tell. Are you aware of if you log into Gmail and you are automatically log into 10 plus Google products, including YouTube, including Google Classroom. See, did I ever submit username password while getting into Google Classroom, Google Drive, Google Translate? Why? Because I already logged into Gmail. Did Gmail ask, did YouTube ask anytime username password? Why? Either it will take you as anonymous user or Gmail user. If that browser window is already logged in with what? Gmail, that becomes your identity or not? That automatically becomes your identity or not? The last one is what, guys? JSON with HTTP. What is that, guys? JSON with HTTP. JSON with HTTP. JSON with what, guys? HTTP. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Come on, everyone. Nothing is there. The data travels between front end and back end in the form of what? JSON with protocol HTTP. So I think you understood the role of API gateway, guys. Now listen. What is this LBC ribbon fins are? These are the special components which are useful for intra communication between microservices. What communication? MS1 wants to talk with MS2. MS2 wants to talk with MS5. They take the support of these components. Like REST template is there, na? Extension of REST template, these special components are there. These special client components are there, they will be used. These special client components are there, they will be used. I hope now you got the overall idea about the overview of the microservice architecture now, boss. Come on. Everyone understood how to work with microservice. Learning all these things is nothing but microservice. That's why once you have RESTful web service knowledge, microservice does not take much time because our main focus is not on microservice development. Anyhow, that is a RESTful web service. Adding these many things is the attractions. These many things extra we add both, that is additional thing. Remaining all are regular and boring things. Explanation is given, guys, for all these things. Each and every point I have discussed, guys. Come on. You please go through them, not a problem. Okay, since some time is there, let me give at least some introduction to Eureka server, because first we have to create Eureka server here, right, guys? Okay, let me start working with the Eureka server. What's your batch code, guys? 901. What's your batch code? 901. What is the tomorrow's date? September 12th. Creating the Netflix Eureka R&D, sir. R&D means what? Register and discovery, not research and development. Not the research and development. Okay, guys. Spring Cloud Netflix Eureka, sir. What is the difference between RESTful web service and microservice? RESTful web service just REST controller, and microservice is the REST controller with additional facilities and tools. With additional tools support and design patterns. REST controller will never be registered with any registry. Client and consumer direct communication. But here, yeah, it should be registered with Eureka, sir. Every microservice must be registered or published with the R&D, register and discovery server, in order to make it discoverable or communicatable from other microservices. In order to make it discoverable or communicatable from other microservices. Everyone understanding my statement? As of now, Netflix Eureka server best. Apache Zookeeper are two popular R&D server. Other R&D servers in the market, SmartStack, Zookeeper, etcd, Console, NSQ, Surf, Dozer, Netflix Eureka server. Netflix Eureka server is the best or not, guys? Every R&D server is Spring Boot project. Array, don't think that we'll download and install, guys. No. We create a project adding one starter. Automatically, how we got embedded Tomcat. Okay, the project itself become R&D server. The project itself becomes R&D server. Clear, boss? The project itself becomes what? R&Ds. The process of discovering or fetching microservice details from R&D server to establish the communication or interaction from other microservice is called what operation? Discovery operation. What operation, guys? Simply and literally what operation, guys? Discovery operation, boss. Understanding my statement? The process of keeping or pushing microservice details in R&D server is called what? Registration activity. What activity, guys? Registration activity. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on. Don't expect separate installation like Tomcat, Wildfly, and etc. The process of discovering or fetching microservice details from R&D server to establish the communication interaction from what? Other microservice is called as what? Discovery operation, right, boss? When we publish different instances of microservice to R&D server, like Eureka server, then the details will look like this. Then the details will look like this. Come on, guys. Service ID, array, project, microservice name, guys. Instance ID, some random number, right? Host name, that means port number, IP address. Load factor 0/200. How many instances of search, guys? 2. How many instances of order, guys? 2. Right now, no request. That's why 0/200, 0/2. It's coming or not coming, boss? I want reply, my dear. Service ID, instance ID, host name is this, port number is this. This is the load factor. This is simply the load factor. Convinced, guys? Like this information will be there in R&D server. No other documents, boss. That's why R&D Netflix Eureka server is also called no document server. In service registry, a WSDL document will be there. Nothing like this. Only information about microservice will be there so that it will be ready for discovery by other microservice. What is the difference between web server and R&D server in microservices, right, guys? What is the difference between web server and R&D server in microservices? Web server is a piece of software that is given to manage and execute bunch of web applications or websites. This also can be used to deploy and execute, come on, restful provider application, microservice application. Okay, this is what? Tomcat. Tomcat is there to execute websites or RESTful applications. We generally take one R&D server in every microservice architecture project. Let it be 200 microservices. They will take only one R&D server. Every microservice execution happens in web server, but it must be registered with what? R&D server in order to make it discoverable or communicatable for other microservices. R&D server is separate project having R&D server dependencies in which all the microservices will be registered. In which all the microservices will be registered. Everyone understanding my statement, guys? Come on. Yeah. I hope you understood the difference between microservice and R&D server and my web server, na boss. Web server is for execution. Web server is for what? Web server is for execution and R&D server for registering the microservices. Eureka server is no document server. That means it does not contain any XML file or JSON file inside the server. Service ID is always project name. Instance ID is unique ID. For every instance, one unique instance ID will be generated. Providing instance ID when single instance is there, optional. In that situation, service ID itself, instance ID. Are you getting my point? One project deployed 10 times, 10 instances. Service ID is project name, same everywhere. Instance ID is different in every deployment, na boss. If only one instance is there, service ID itself becomes instance ID. The host name port details will be auto-detected by Eureka server during the process of register or publishment of microservice. Load factor is equal to current load by max load. Load factor is equal to current load by max load. Why the Netflix Eureka server is called R&D server? We register or publish every microservice in Eureka server in order to make it discoverable and communicatable from what? Other microservices. So we can say Eureka server as what? R&D server. So we can say Eureka server as what? R&D. Why Eureka server is called R&D server? Every microservice we register with what? Eureka server. Okay, in order to make it discoverable for other microservices. So we register so that they can be discovered. So that's the reason they are called, it is called as what? R&D server. Convinced, boss? Okay, now listen. With this introduction of microservices over, first we develop one Eureka server. Then we try to develop one microservice and we publish in Eureka. This is our next requirement. That part I am going to take up tomorrow. Don't miss the class at any cost tomorrow. Once that is over, we'll go for microservice communication, intra-communication between microservices. One by one, we will discuss, guys, right? Okay. What is instance in this context? Instance, each microservice deployment is one instance, na? I developed 10 services, 10 microservices. Okay. But I found such service is having more demand. I deployed it for 3 times in 3 different places. Now tell me how many instances of such service I deployed? 3. Project name is service ID, but instance ID is randomly generated one. Okay. So that means what? For one microservice project, one service ID is there, 3 instance IDs are there. Lakshmi madam, first attend the classes. Okay. Yeah, first correct your English. Your English is a bit problematic, boss. Who asked this question? Okay, basically you don't have name, huh? Okay, then leave it. First you should have a name before asking question, na? I'm not getting any call for interview. I'm waiting before 1 month. No guys, from last 1 month you have to say. Before 1 month, after 1 month, there is such a word, wrong wording. I think there is some communication problem. I think you might have done spell mistakes and grammatical mistake in the resume. Check your resume once. That's the one thing. Number 2, market is open now. People are getting jobs. Okay. Make sure that resume is filled up for 100%. Make sure that latest technologies like microservice, Spring Boot, okay, these are whatever you want to highlight and hotcake, they are there in your resume. Okay. Okay. Number 3, make sure that it is registered in multiple job portal websites. Not in one portal website, multiple job portal website. And every 3 days you have to update the resume. At least for every 2 days, one or other modification you have to do and you have to update. If no modification is not there, add one space, commit. Other day go, remove the space, commit. Understood? Space also it will recognize as a modification. No modification also, you have to create the modification situation and you have to submit it. because only active resumes, active profiles will get the more call. Otherwise, observe, when you keep the resume, first 4 days you will get a lot of calls. After that, they'll start slowing down because you are not giving updated resume to the market. If you give updated resume, then they will give what? Calls. File uploader, spring here, 911 90. Thank you guys. Have a nice day. We'll meet tomorrow and we will discuss about what? How to create R&D server and how to register microservice in that R&D server.